Hello, and welcome to the Tysons-Scotts Run Gateway virtual public meeting. We are we will get started in just a couple of minutes. We're just giving folks a chance to gather and for Zoom to get everybody set up with their audios and videos and everything else. But welcome again to the Tysons-Scotts Run Gateway virtual public meeting. I'm so excited to be able to host this meeting here. I am Sonali Soneji, Director of Transportation with the Tysons Community Alliance. And this is a project that we are advancing in partnership with Fairfax County DOT and Virginia DOT. And again, we will get started in just a minute, giving people a chance to gather and for Zoom to get everyone's audios in place and videos in place. We are just going to get started in a minute or so. So we are a couple of minutes past the hour, and I think we are going to get started at this point. Welcome again to the public meeting, and thank you so much for your interest in this project and taking time today to learn a little bit more about this project that is being led by the Tysons Community Alliance. I am Sonali Soneji, Director of Transportation with the Tysons Community Alliance. And I just wanted to go over a couple of technical things. So we do have a presentation for you. And once the presentation is done, we would love to get some feedback and collaboration going. A couple of ways that we would like you to participate. One is to ask us questions or share your comments. You would see a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, most likely. So we would love to get you to type out your questions in the Q&A function. You can type it in at any time during the meeting, even during the presentation, but we will read the questions out. I will read the questions out at the end of the meeting after the presentations are done. And I'll have the presenters and the panelists answer the questions verbally. I just also wanted to mention that there are a couple of poll questions that we will also ask you to participate in. The poll will pop up in the middle of your screen, most likely, when we do this. And so we just wanted you to be prepared. This will happen after the presentation, before the Q&A session. And as is pretty normal, we are recording this session. We will be providing the video for those that weren't able to attend the session live. And the slides will also be posted on that event page where you may have registered for this meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to our CEO, Katie Crystal, to kick us off and give us a quick introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonali. And thank you all for joining us today. We are delighted to have you for this really exciting project. As Sonali mentioned, my name is Katie. I'm the CEO of the Tysons Community Alliance, the lead agency on this project. You will hear so much more about the project itself and why this project and gateways like it matter so much for Tysons' future from my colleagues. So I'm going to welcome you with just a word about us in case this is your first time encountering the Tysons Community Alliance. We are a public-private partnership committed to catalyzing Tysons' continued transformation into a thriving, diverse, and competitive urban community. We do that through placemaking, through communications, branding, and engagement, through research, and data as well as transportation and mobility. You may have encountered a few of our projects if you have, for example, driven by the intersection of routes 123 and 7 and seen the beautification projects underway. If you've experienced our Tysons Data Hub or consumed market data about Tysons office market performance in recent months, or perhaps if you were entertained by bluegrass or flamenco performers during your summer commute at one of our Silver Line stations, or many of our other programs over the past year or year and a half. This is one of many projects, this gateway opportunity that we are engaged in to bring together the public of the power of the private sector, the power of the public sector and private sector working together to really support that transformation of Tysons into the urban community envisioned in the Tysons Comprehensive Plan, to make it a livable downtown for all of Northern Virginia and to increase our competitiveness as a great community. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things back over to Sonali and to Jason Zog, our Director of Placemaking, to tell you a little bit more about this opportunity ahead of us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Zug. I am TCA's Director of Placemaking, and I'll go through a little bit about this project before handing it off to our artist, Vicky Scurry. So, a little bit of the project background. The location that we're talking about throughout this webinar is the what we're calling the Scotts Run Gateway. This is nearby the Scotts Run stream. If you are going on 123 on sidewalk or by car, and you go underneath the Dulles Toll Road, you'll see there are four different bridges. Three of them are identical to each other in this beautiful concrete form, and then one of them is different from the others. It's an original bridge from the 60s and needs a significant amount of rehabilitation, something that VDOT is planning on embarking on in the near future. On the top right corner, you can see it from one direction. The bottom right corner, you can see it coming from McLean and going toward Capital One. So just a little bit of orientation for you. So a little bit about the project scope. What we're going to be talking about today is the idea of doing some architectural enhancements for what really is a routine VDOT rehabilitation project. Doing something that possibly you would call a custom sort of site-specific piece of artwork to highlight an important gateway in the Tysons East area. The project schedule that we're envisioning is something to the effect of kicking off the project in the fall of this year, which has already happened. We've been working with the artist Vicky Scurry, who's worked with VDOT before on bridges in Arlington and many bridges around the United States. Throughout the past couple of months, we've been doing concept designs, which you'll see here today. And then we'll have to swiftly go into final design in the first part of next year in order to meet some VDOT construction deadlines. The idea of behind these enhancements from a funding perspective is that these enhancements will be funded entirely by sponsorships, and we'll get to a little bit of that at the end. So this is the point where I want to hand it off to our esteemed artist, Vicky Scurry, who's going to do her own little introduction.
Hi, it's great to be here today, and I'm honored to be working in Virginia again. I've worked in infrastructure for almost 40 years, and I really like working with teams and connecting people with place and humanizing places that ordinarily might be considered generic or not part of the community. What I do is I bring them in. Next slide. To be part of the fabric of your basically where you live. And this is a very good example. This is the Arlington Boulevard Gateway, which is nearby. So some of you may have experienced it. And I think what this does is it provides wayfinding, it provides connection, and it provides interest throughout the day and night. Next. These are two projects that are gateways also, one in Alaska and one in Wichita, Kansas. So this is something that's happening all around the United States as communities become more involved with speaking out for what they need in order to be, part of their city and their neighborhoods. And so these gateways mark specific neighborhoods that otherwise were not really recognized, and in some cases are portals to the city, like the one in actually Anchorage on the left. Next. So with this, I'm going to introduce you to the concepts that we've developed for you. I was in Tysons for about 4 days, and I walked around and looked at a lot of things and spent time at the site trying to see how you experience it and what you see and when you see it. And you can see that you do see the girder from quite a distance away. And also, this does really mark an entrance and an exit to the city. Next. It's really in an area where there is quite a bit of nature, and Scotts Run is right nearby. And that became one of the focuses for us because it seems like one of the sort of interesting things about Tysons is how built up it is as an urban, core, but also how connected it is to the natural environment. And Scotts Run is right there. And so this inspires our work. I'll go to the next image. So this is designed to look like a river, kind of the flow of water. This is called Ripple, and it uses the sort of language of the river to create these streams that move through and basically mark the girder and the piers of the bridge, and then they connect through paint. Yeah, next, this is another view. So what we're trying to do is create this sense of a portal. Next. And it really does stand out. The next project or concept design that we came up is called Wave, and it's much more about the city in a way, the sort of sleek glass and steel buildings, the way light plays on shadow, on off glass, and how clouds pass by, and also how water moves with wave patterns. So next, it's a different, more minimalistic design, but I think equally effective. And this is and the next. And then we picked the color blue because it's Tyson's color. And I think that, having this be an identity piece for the city is what we're really looking for. So when you come here, you realize, hey, I'm in Tysons. Next. And then I think it's also important that this is not just active and interesting during the day. Go to the next image. But is active at night and interesting. Like this is again, I mentioned in Wichita, Kansas. Next. And this would look very much the same in some ways in terms of how the light would interact with the metal grill work and covers on the piers. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason.
Yes. So I'm going to just discuss briefly the importance of gateways in Tysons, and the idea of why gateways are important. So at the TCA, we really believe that gateways will be able to differentiate Tysons. They've really become sort of how a hallmark of thriving high growth communities across the country. Infrastructure really can be of and for a place. When it tends to be generic, it feels like you're anywhere. And infrastructure can create a sense of arrival grounded in place. So it kind of brings a little bit more legibility to the urban landscape, functions as implicit wayfinding because you're in this place versus that place, rather than having sort of that generic infrastructure feel. Gateways can also create a sense of welcoming and celebration. So we hope that this is the first of multiple gateway projects in the future. We really believe this is a great opportunity on a timeline that VDOT was already working on. There's a great artistic opportunity here to kind of summarize some of the work that Vicky's done on the top of the screen, and then the ripple design and the wave design below in both day and night. You could see how dramatic this would be able to change that sense of welcome, that sense of arrival in and out of Tysons. So we'd really like to, join us in building Tyson's future. We have the idea of 10 named sponsorship opportunities at about $50,000 each for this extraordinary infrastructure project. And we're hoping that there are entities, people, companies out there that would be interested in participating with us so we can fund this idea that we've been working on with Vicky. So I'll hand it back to Sonali at this point.
Thank you, everybody, for a really informative presentation about the actual project and also the idea of how gateways can support this identity of Tysons and make it a one sort of unified place. So at this point, I would like to again invite you to collaborate with us I'm not really seeing any questions in the question and answer portal, so please feel free to type in your questions or even comments, and I would be happy to read them out at the end of this session. But before we do that, and as you're thinking about your questions and comments, I'll invite you to participate in the poll questions that I think you may have already seen. So next slide, please. So the first poll question that I have for you all is, how familiar are you with the location of the Tysons-Scotts Run Gateway? You can choose to say you are very familiar, pass this location regularly, or if you are somewhat familiar with the location and general area, or if the location is new to you. So that would be our first question. And you would pick just one of those options. And then our second question would be to ask you, how do you think the artwork that is proposed for the Tysons-Scotts Run Gateway can enhance the identity of Tysons? And for this, you're welcome to choose as many options that you think would apply. So the first one would be by creating a sense of arrival at this transition point. The second one is by improving the visual appeal of this location. The third one would be by reflecting the colors and urban design of Tysons. The fourth one is by adding lights to increase visibility and perceived safety after dark. And the fifth one is by highlighting the presence of an invested community in Tysons. So how do you think the proposed design is enhancing the identity of Tysons? So please feel free to select your poll answers now. And William, will we be able to see the responses?
Yes, I'm waiting on everybody to respond. We have only 12 of the 20 participants responded yet.
Okay, so we'll give this another few seconds. And I see one question in the Q&A portal, but please feel free to add more. So I'm really curious to learn about if people are familiar with this place and how they think this artwork can enhance the identity of Tysons. Maybe we should move ahead. William? So we had about 15 people answer, and if you didn't get a chance to answer or have more questions or comments, I'm sure we can, you know where to find us. I'll let you know in a second how to find us. All right. So based on the ones that did answer, most people seem to be either familiar with this particular location or at least familiar with the general area. And the responses that I'm seeing show that creating a sense of arrival at this point gets the highest number of votes, followed by visual appeal, and adding lights seems to be some of the ways that we're making this place more visible and somewhat safer, followed by the presence of an invested community. And the last one, although not still gets 46% of the votes is by reflecting colors and the design of Tysons. So thank you very much for your participation, and we'll now move to the Q&A session. And on the screen is the link to the event page where many of you may have registered. We'll continue to post updates on that page, and also our email addresses in case you would like to get in touch with us are on the screen here. And this slide presentation will be also posted on the event page. So with that, I see a few questions, and I'm going to ask the first question is for VDOT. So Dipali, the question is VDOT proposing any other improvements to this gateway area or bridge, or is it just structural fixes? So Dipali.
Hi, I'm Dipali Patel. I'm VDOT Structure and Bridge Project Manager. So we do have a project for bridge rehabilitation on this structure, wherein we will be doing a superstructure replacement where we are replacing the deck and the beams and bearings on the bridge, and we will be repairing the substructure or the bridge support.
And thank you, Dipali. And there's another question also for VDOT. And if you'd like to start responding, and then we can follow up. And so the question is, I guess some DOTs provide public art in projects, and the question is why are grants needed, or we can talk a little bit more about funding for this project.
Okay. So as a part of the VDOT project, the architectural treatments were not in scope because we are using bridge repair and maintenance funds on this project. And we usually try to take our funding far, so to repair and maintain the bridges. So this project did not have any architectural treatments to account for. And I understand that Tysons Community Association wanted more elaborate art at this bridge as a part of the gateway enhancement, more so than what DOTs typically do.
And I can speak on behalf of Tysons Community Alliance that we did find out about this project when it was when the public comment period opened, and I was able to connect with Dipali and others at VDOT and try to build that partnership. Somewhat late in your project, schedule, and I've really been very appreciative of your sort of acceptance of our inputs and our sort of ability to try to include this public art into the project. So it's been a partnership that was sort of we had to build and for this project. And so maybe in the future we can sort of work with VDOT on earlier in the projects to try to make sure that things are funded and also sort of designed and planned more coordinatively. But right now, this project, I am super happy to be able to, bring this opportunity to this level. And so at this point, it really wasn't either in VDOT's grant or sort of budget, and it was also something that TCA kind of initiated, and that's part of the reason why additional funding is needed. Katie, would you like to add a few
I
words?
just wondered, Sonali, if you and Jason may want to say another word about, to me, this is an opportunity to really flesh out a point Jason was making earlier about the scale of gateways, because I think the difference here really is one of scale. our partners at VDOT do, for example, some form work, for example, in concrete, a little bit of design and some element that does go into maybe a little bit of beautification of kind of basic infrastructure. What we're trying to create here is something that is a bit more iconic, really a major impression that is commensurate with the type of place we're trying to create in Tysons. It is over and above the type of kind of basic beautification and infrastructure. It is a piece of art that really would create a landmark for Tysons. And so I think that it's important to create that distinction, that there will always be a need if we're going to try to create that level of iconic art, a real sense of destination, a real sense of arrival, as Jason talked about in that gateway. As Dipali talked about, there will only be but so many VDOT dollars to go but so far in infrastructure. And so I think there's a distinction there that may be worth teasing out. Perhaps no more to be said there than exactly that, but.
Yeah, I think that's well said. If you look at some of the examples that I assembled from around the country, really just based on Google Images searches of gateways, most of these are, when you look at the funding of them, the majority of the ones you see on the right-hand side are funded by sponsorships, grants, foundations. They're typically a little bit above and beyond what most of the 50 state DOTs are able to contribute. So I think we're trying to create iconic and distinctive gateways. I also wanted to answer one of the other questions that has popped up about the three bridges and the one bridge that are next to each other. I think try to put this in your mind that we're using this as an opportunity because VDOT is already scheduled on their capital plan to redo this bridge. And there will be one of the things I plan on doing in the future is a sort of a concept plan for gateways for vehicles, pedestrians, and bikes coming in and out of Tysons, and really identifying where the best locations, most impactful locations are for those gateways. And it's possible that, when I do that concept plan for that larger concept plan for gateways across all of Tysons, that we might look at this gateway and say, perhaps there's some additional something that could be done there to kind of bring those other three bridges into the fold through lighting, or maybe there's some landscaping or something to kind of bring it in. But the speed that VDOT is going on the renovation project for this bridge kind of necessitated tackling just one of the four at the current moment, knowing that in the future some other additional enhancements might be able to be done.
Thank you, Jason. We do have a few more questions in the Q&A session. So I'd like to start next with whether there would be additional opportunities for the community to be involved. And if you could go back to the schedule slide, Jason, I just wanted to talk through the different project phases. It's one of the early ones. So we are trying to match VDOT's schedule. As we mentioned, VDOT had already initiated this project. We are trying to incorporate the public art into their project. There are some cost efficiencies with that, and also just technical expertise. We're so happy to be able to, add a little bit to their project, trying to take this on as just a TCA would be pretty time consuming and need a lot of expertise. So it's a great partnership, but we do need to keep to their schedule. And the TCA project kicked off in October, which was just a couple of months ago. And we've designed, we were able to work with Vicky to create these concepts. And we need to get, feedback and move forward by the end of the year. And then continue the design development phase through basically summer of 2025. That has been VDOT will basically start, move into the construction phase. And the delivery for this project is is envisioned to be within 2 years, summer of 2027. So that's a really quick schedule for both design and construction. Pros and cons of that. The pros are that, we'll see this beautiful project out in our community fairly soon. But it also means we may not have quite as much time to do a whole lot of community meetings and back and forth. But building this partnership with VDOT has been very, very critical and essential, as was already mentioned. And we want to make this work for everybody. So
Could I jump in, Sonali? I also feel like I'd be
absolutely.
remiss if I didn't suggest. We also have a number of other ways for the community to get involved in other Tysons Community Alliance placemaking program activities, as well, of course, as our transportation and mobility program activities. So whether people are interested in thinking about placemaking installations like this one, we released about 6 months ago, our placemaking framework. If you go to tysonsva.org and search placemaking framework, you can see our webinar from the reveal of that, as well as web addresses and links to learn more about how to get involved in some efforts that Jason will have going on, whether they are beautification projects, pop-up installations, or more pieces of kind of physical infrastructure, wayfinding, that type of thing. Many opportunities to get involved in programming and events. Our Tysons teammates are great ways for people to get engaged in events and activities. And of course, our Explore Tysons transportation campaigns, whether you might like to connect to mobility and moving around Tysons, making connections on foot or bike or scooting device, as well as by car, or contributing to kind of policy conversations and development about mobility in Tysons. So if you're interested in engagement activities about placemaking, about mobility, about transportation, or the intersection of all of those things, we have a lot of different programs going and would love to have your engagement in those areas. So Tysons teammates, tysonsva.org, search placemaking, or the web addresses and email addresses we'll have at the end are all great avenues to do that as well.
Thank you, Katie. So the next question, I think I'm going to have Vicky address. And the question is about the colors that were chosen for this art project and the color blue in particular, why that color was chosen.
Well, if you look at the presentation today, you might notice that there's blue borders and blue framing devices throughout the branding of Tysons. And we had a stakeholders meeting several weeks ago, and we asked them what color they think Tysons is, in terms of your emotional sort of expression of color. And blue was the dominant color that came up. And so based on that, we had actually looked at another color. We've looked at more of an earth tone, kind of a like a weathering steel kind of earth tone, kind of more related in some ways to the rough character of the Scotts Run. But people really like the blue because it actually reflects more of the buildings and the skyline and how the sky is reflected in the glass. And that's how it came about. So
Thank
it
you,
has
Vicky.
been kind of vetted with a larger audience. It didn't really just come from me. It really came from a group of about 20 people. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. And I think that might be an opportunity for Katie, if you would like to talk a little bit about the Tysons branding and how we're trying to build identity around Tysons using universal and more uniform branding across different projects, different installations.
Absolutely. So the Tysons Community Alliance last year throughout 2023 engaged in a major strategic planning undertaking with about 80 stakeholders from across sectors and a community survey outreach which engaged more than 800 different voices of residents and visitors to Tysons about priorities. One of the top things that emerged was creating a sense of identity for Tysons, a real need in the region, and beyond, to position what Tysons is, this rapidly changing and dynamic community, and to put a little more power and consistency behind that brand. And so that's one of the major things that we're working on as the Tysons Community Alliance with our This Way Up brand campaign. The core brand identity is one that is familiar, that predates us as the TCA, and actually predates me in this organization entirely, and was a project of a forerunner organization called the Tysons Partnership, working in collaboration with Fairfax County government. I don't want to speak too extensively to that process. Again, it did predate me, but was a partnership that I understand included many dozens of stakeholders. And so that sort of Tysons brand, the logo, the core colors, represented, I think, a very robust public outreach campaign. So we've adjusted it, refreshed it a little bit, but those kind of core identities and colors really are a legacy of a few years old body of work at this point. But we've put our arms around that, tweaked it a bit for that kind of forward-looking campaign, the This Way Up brand campaign that we are putting out there now, that we hope you'll see more of around the Tysons community, and that we will be working with our partners to disseminate through paid media and beyond. So we definitely think that visual art and culture is a great way to help disseminate that and complement a lot of our more paid and organic marketing and branding strategies as well. All of that said, I want to respect Vicky's process as well as an artist. We did not give her a brand brief, Vicky. We really wanted you to be inspired by, for example, the natural materials that you saw during your time here. And I know that you spent a lot of time kind of engaging with Scotts Run. I was inspired by your takeaways about some of the natural surroundings here. We certainly didn't want to treat you like a marketing and branding consultant, and wanted to respect your artistic process as well.
Of course, yes. And I just also wanted to mention that this is a concept design. We're very early in the design process, and please don't take anything that you see today as done, or expect to see it out exactly the way it is shown. There will be some tweaks, there will be some changes, and yeah, this is really again, very early in the design process. Also like to answer a question about our goal for fundraising for this project. Our goal is $500,000, $500,000. I know it's a lofty goal, and we will definitely be making, design decisions based on, funding, keeping funding in mind. And so again, as I said, this is early in the design process, different factors that will be taken into account to make decisions in the future. And our last question that I'm seeing right now. So again, feel free if you had additional questions to put them into the chat or the Q&A box. But this question is for VDOT again. And the question is about traffic impact during construction. So Dipali, if you wouldn't mind talking about any maintenance survey or whatever that you have, is it too early to know about that at this point?
No, actually, we do have the maintenance of traffic already planned. The bridge is going to be rehabilitated in 2 stages. We will have 2 lanes of traffic going through on the bridge, one on the bridge, and 1 lane of the traffic will be diverted to the parallel bridge, which is the airport access road, and it will merge further east back onto 267 eastbound. And the exits around the bridge 19A and 19B will remain open during construction.
Thank you, Dipali. And I think I am not seeing any additional questions at this point. So we'll give you another couple of minutes to just think about what you've heard. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box. And if we do not receive any further questions, we will be closing the meeting in a couple of minutes. As I said, we will post the recording of this meeting as well as the slides that were shared earlier on the event page, and also includes our contact information in case you think of something later or would like to contact us, especially for sponsorship opportunities. We would love to hear from you. So I think the project budget question was missed, so I'm going to repeat what we just said. Our total goal for our fundraising is $500,000, $500,000. As I said before, this is a lofty goal, but that will allow us to create all of those bridge elements that we're showing on the screen. If we do need to take some decisions as we go along based on fundraising and other factors, there will be some adjustments made to the design, but our goal right now is $500,000. And so with that, I am going to ask William to close the meeting out, and thank you again for taking time and all of your interest in this project.